My name is Michael James. I'll be talking about Web 3.0 and what benefit us as either investigators or OSINT analysts can go through and kind of get out of this new kind of domain. A lot of it is from NFT, but mostly it hinges on a lot of what Jeff talked about just previously with the blockchain specific technology and the tracking through that, right? So this will be a kind of a quick talk. It'll be a primer in regard to a lot of different things, but it does come with a tool at the end. So, you know, there's that. How about that trade-off? You guys can go to my GitHub page. I posted it in the hallway in about 8 minutes. I have a scheduled post to Ginsburg 5150, which is my name on Twitter and everything else over. And it will come with a lot of the materials that we're going to go through and cover, and then expand upon a lot more of the stuff that we don't get to actually dive into at this point. This is just who I am, all that stuff, whatever. And I want you to take notice of the top left, that comparison of Bitcoin to Ethereum to all the rest of the projects. The reason why we focus in regards to Ethereum, especially now, is because it is about 20% of the actual blockchain or cryptocurrency space, you know, where the finance and the DAO and NFT markets, all of this being sold in these proper spaces. So you want to go after the bigger characters in the space, right? But that does mean also that there's about 18,000 other projects that are the other 20%. So you have Bitcoin at 60%, Ethereum about 20%, and then another 18,000. And it's very easy to get lost in those type of transactions and things like that. So what is Web3? Essentially, it's an unholy marriage between cryptocurrency and JavaScript. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but a lot of what blockchain and those technologies need is a really good interface, and JavaScript kind of brings that marriage together. But technically what it is the semantic web and the automated web. The semantic web being the incorporation of machine learning, automated responses, and delivering sense to all of the data collected at such a rapid rate from the Web 2.0 to 3.0 with social media and other things of that nature, right? So data is now considered to be human behavior in regards to a lot of the blockchain projects and things like that. If people remember Cambridge Analytica and the amount of data that was being collected on people there, this is that, but expedited. And again, a lot of the automated web there for smart contracts, doing contracts and transactions at scale, and the ability to go through and to leverage information storage to a point where it doesn't matter who, there's not a centralized server for that. So the ownership thing is the decentralization part of that, but that is also the automation part. It also comes with a fair amount of pain. There's some projects we'll look at to go through and kind of bring more of that, of some of that cost and some of those pains to light there, right? So this is what we're going to go over: useful sites, Web3 technologies, what is a DAO, what is DeFi, and then we'll get into some of the more of the other technologies in regards to Ens Domains, which is Ethereum name service. We won't cover UNS a lot, but that is the other thing that is the pack leader right now, which is the unstoppable domains. You may have seen the .x or .crypto or .888, those type of things. The reason why we want to go through and cover those is because there are some browser modifications you have to make to those to get those specific domains to resolve sometimes. So we want to go through and at least prime the pump in regards to knowledge about that. We'll be releasing more kind of walkthroughs in regards to how to set browser, what browsers to use, and more of that kind of information as we get along the way. We'll move into some more of the traditional OSINT stuff and how we can go through and use that to actually solve for some of the things we traditionally need in open source intelligence. And then we'll get into the tool release, and we have a couple of videos to show what the tool actually does. One thing I do want to mention before we get too deep into this is I know this is Web3 technology, NFTs, and all the other acronyms and stuff like that. Do not be afraid to use your traditional OSINT skills or DFIR skills or any other skills that you have competency in to go through and solve for these problems. 9 times out of 10, the way that you solve it through username enumeration or through for doing attribution in regard to specific things or corporate data, or even look at the ransomware actors and stuff like that. There are ways to go through and do this that don't even touch Web3. But as we start moving into this Web3 space, we want to go through and see what data artifacts are out there and be able to be captured for either a historical view, long-term, long-term residency, or just attribution in regards to what your theory or your question that you're trying to answer is. Remember that also all of these tools are just tools. Anything for open source intelligence, we want to go through and actually take the analysis and actually produce intelligence for the stakeholders. And it's not just information that we're trying to go through and just put out. A lot of the stuff that you'll get is just information out of these Web 3.0 tools because they're just scraping essentially blockchains. But we want to go through and take it one step further and actually add the why does it matter to that stuff. So enough of me talking, let's get into some technologies and stuff, right? All right, so some of the useful sites, like I said, the GitHub, you can go there, Ginsberg 5150. There will be a glossary of definitions. There will be some videos. There is the tool link, and we'll get into that stuff later. But I wanted to go through and just talk about some of the other tools that are browser-based tools that might help, a basic investigation and get you off the ground with that stuff. ETH Detective. So for Ethereum Detective, it is a very nice service. It does only do Ethereum blockchain type stuff. You can see in here where you can put a wallet address and it will do a visual representation of what the transactions in and out and where the chain goes to. It's really nice because it does have an automated button to go to Etherscan, and then you can also go through and have it set for Google. So it'll just do the basic Google search, which is what every OSINT analyst ever does, right? It's just Google fancy. So it just puts the wallet address out there and allows you to go through and reap the information from that from one tool. It's very nice. The second tool is it's a little bit more robust because it does do Ethereum, Bitcoin, Polygon, and then most of the ERC20, ERC721, the ERC1155 tokens and stuff like that, any of the contracts that are on the Ethereum blockchain. But one of the reasons why we like this is not only does it do visual representation in regards to who's sending money and who's receiving money, but it also is supported by the Anti-Human Trafficking Intelligence Initiative, and anything we can do to support those guys, we're good with, right? Sometimes in an investigation, you may look at something and you may get an image of something and it's not technically resolvable in regards to like a reverse image search or something. We've listed 3 different instances of crypto logos and things like that in the GitHub to where you might be able to go through and pull out something. The really nice one about cryptologo.cc is that it does a historical view and it does have brand guidelines. So if you see something that doesn't match specifically with what they are talking about, then it may be indications of phishing campaigns or malicious actions or something else like that. So these are just for identification markers, but kind of fun stuff, right? This site here is Asteroids, which is kind of trying to be the Reddit of they even call it the D web, which, I've had to stop people from making jokes in regards to that stuff, but it is kind of the front page of the decentralized web. So if there's projects listed there, you can go through and you can get screenshots. With this search engine is kind of what it is. Less is more when you're searching this stuff. So if you want to look for Vitalik Buterin's website, vitalik.eth, don't put the entire thing in, just put the val or the Vitalik or whatever you want, because it resolves keyword enumeration as opposed to string confirmation stuff. So it's a fun site, and there's a lot of neat projects that are on there, but it may help you go through and get some analysis and further your investigation through this stuff. One of the main sites for getting more information out of these stories is dedicated people like Web3 is going great. This is a fantastic site that down in the bottom corner you can see is where they have the counter of how much money projects have either burned through, hackers have gone through and stolen from exchanges, other things that cause this great dumpster fire that is sometimes Web3. The really nice thing about Web3 is going great is you can see that it definitely has filters for you to go through and search for specific blockchains or specific projects. So DAOs, DeFis, protocols, things like that. And we'll get into some more of what that means later. But just know that this is a really fantastic kind of site. And one of the other things I want to go through and talk about is that there are people call them tumblers or mixers. And there was even a question, I think, in one of the last, in Jeff's video, someone had asked about how, mixers or tumblers throw kind of a spanner into the work. This is one that's specifically for Ethereum called tornado.cash. The nice thing about this is if people are doing tumblers or mixers through Ethereum, all this stuff is scrapable. You can actually go through and pull out all of the wallet IDs of all these transactions. It will take you forever to go through a lot of these transactions. But the fact of the matter that the source is scrapable may assist in, KYC or in, blending tokens to go through and get out of malicious activities or something else of that nature. So knowing these type of assets are out there sometimes can help. So let's get into some of the actual underlying technologies. And the reason why we want to go through and look at this is because it will come back up throughout the talk. And some of these may be familiar to you, some of them may not, but we'll go over them in some detail, and then we'll get a little bit more examples as we kind of go through the talk here. So IPFS, which is the International Planetary File System, and IPNS, which is International Planetary Naming System. Let's see, and in GraphQL and in Fura. And you can see this unholy abomination of kind of what the schema of some of these protocols and how they pay out in these automated smart contracts. But we'll get into some more of this stuff here. So IPFS is mostly for storage and for hosting. So it is essentially, if you remember Onion Scan or Onion Share from back in the day, and again, more alluding to the deep web kind of notoriety in regards to these blockchain projects, you can go through and you can host your own IPFS node, and you can go through and put your own files, your own avatars. A lot of people host NFT projects and the images in IPFS. I slow down. And the difference between IPFS and IPNS is the naming system is the gateway. So it is mutable because it's allowed to go through and be changed so that you can get the IPFS storage to go through and resolve in your browser. But the IPFS is a hash that is singularly specific to that file and that location. You can go through and put them on what they call pinning services, and we'll look at Infura here in a second, which offers like 5 gigs for free for you to go through and to put images on there as a monthly kind of cycling. But IPFS is immutable. You cannot go through and change it. If you change that, the hash changes. And so if you have a previous hash and you try to resolve it and something's changed, you're out of luck in regards to that stuff. The gateway, there's a list of gateways that are available that actually are mutable, so they can be changed and they can be shuffled around and stuff there. So this is the desktop version for IPFS. You'll notice up here at the top, it has a QM hash or a BAFY hash. Those are the two that, in looking at different things that you may be able to go through and pull back, and then you can search through them. You can search through the files. You can search through the Merkle tree to see what levels of directories there are and how much further you can kind of dive into these things. And again, IPFS is literally BitTorrent, so there is some tracking that we're attempting in regards to IP address resolution, Git, and then HTML, because it displays it in the browser, so it allows it to go through and carry over with that stuff. GraphQL is very nice, and it is, I don't think, a new technology. It's essentially what a REST API is, but on steroids, right? So REST API will allow you to go through and pull out one specific query. So you can look for profile or user or X, right? With GraphQL, you can go through and you can send one query, and because it's paired to a schema, which we'll see here in a minute, you can actually go through and do one request and pull out a bunch of different data artifacts all at the same query, and do it from multiple, either different users or different wallet addresses or wherever else you want. There's actually a company called The Graph that does blockchain technology searches. They're curated, and they've actually built their own token called the GRT token that allows them to go through and to just use GraphQL as their entire business stream. It's not just that I'm redacting it, but that's essentially what it is. Also, like I said, it can search IPFS, and it can also search blockchain technologies. So it's kind of the perfect search query for the Web3 transactions. Oh, okay. Pressing buttons. So one of the things I want to go through and demonstrate with GraphQL was that there are playgrounds, and this is in the GitHub page as well, but there are a couple things down here you can look at, and this is this iDebate, which I'm saying wrong, I know I am, but this playground here allows you to go through and to write queries as long as you have the URL, and the URL has to be, the domain name / version, whichever one it is, 1 or 2, 3, whatever, and then GraphQL at the that's the directory. And the reason why that's important, and we'll see in a second, is because this GraphQL comes back with the schema that's allowed to go through and be searched. So it's very nice because it tells you what you can and what you can't go through and search from. So if you want to go through and pull all the wallets out of an NFT project and it has a GraphQL connection to it, it's very possible to go through and scrape all of the wallets out of that project, regardless of whatever chain it's on. And we'll get into a little bit of a demonstration here as well. And I'll go a little bit more into this. Let's see if I can press play. I tried it one more time. It's not working. Come on, you gonna embarrass me on stream like this? Okay. Let's see if I can make this work. I can't. Okay, that's fine. So essentially what this does, and I'll just kind of walk you through this stuff, because the reason why we wanted to do it in a video as opposed to doing it in just specific slides is because if you take this URL, it allows you to go through, and once it's loaded into that GraphQL queue, you can make specific queries to that set. The documentation over here actually has the information that you can search by it. And this is still not working. And then the schema on this side actually allows you to go through and see what's other different, what they call leafs, are out there to go through and to be searched. And what you can do is you can pull down all of the schema, right, in a text file, and it's called the SDL. It's the schema defined language. And so you can take the SDL and you can put it into, since this won't work, we'll do it this way. You can go back to this apis.guru//graphql.voyager. And what that does is it allows you to put any of those SDLs, any of those schema defined language query structures, and it visually represents all of the actual search queries that you can go through and do. It also gives you what those search queries are in. So if it's a string, if it's an int, if it's a Boolean search, whatever it is, it allows you to go through and put that value in there. Not only, so it is a key and value pair system. So you have the GraphQL that comes automatically with the schema language. So it knows what you can go through and search for. And then it just displays all that stuff directly out there for you. So I apologize that the video is not working. The video is in the GitHub. So if you want to go through and pull it down yourself, you're welcome to go through and look at it. I hope there are 2 other videos in this project and in this talk, whatever. And I have a feeling that neither of them are going to work out too, but we'll deal with that bridge when we get to, right? Infura.io is just a very low barrier of entry to go through and to get a project ID, or essentially an API, right? To go through and query for specific blockchains. There's Filecoin, which is another storage device that's based on a cryptocurrency called Filecoin. There's IPFS, which we've talked about a little bit before, but you'll notice down here, IPFS, if you build a scraper, or if you just want to host information on there, they'll give you up to 5 gigs for free to go through and try it out and stuff. So it gets you familiar with kind of setting that stuff up. And then the Ethereum layer 2 stuff, obviously C Vitalik, this is kind of what we're talking about in regards to Web3 project. And then Ethereum, you can actually get 100,000 requests per day. So if you're looking at wallet addresses or 720 tokens or 20 tokens that you want to go through and to enumerate the contract via this platform, as opposed to looking through Etherscan, if you want to build it into a project or an open source tooling, that might help with that stuff. But this will allow you to go through and to know at least that you can get this for free before you get rate limited in regards to all that other stuff there. So wanted to go through and talk a little bit in regards to DAOs and DeFi. DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. And what that means is it's basically a Twitter mob with a bunch of wallets. And I'm not being facetious, I'm not being mean or whatever, but the fact is that it allows anyone from any part of the globe to go through and to join a project and to have governance or have a voting right in regards to that specific project. Not all DeFis are DAOs, and not all DAOs are decentralized finance. There's other things like people want to go through and buy certain scripts or museum pieces. There are some really crazy ones out there. The reason why I put these together is because both of them have an interaction with a wallet that they have to associate with the project. DeFi is decentralized finance. So like if you had a company like Uniswap, which its whole goal is to trade one token into another token via this protocol, it actually started as a definance company, a decentralized finance company, and then it made a DAO to go through and do governance, and it allowed other people to go through and weigh in on what direction the company goes. It doesn't always go back and forth like that, but we'll get to a couple of examples and some of the benefits. DAO tracking for us may be very beneficial because of KYC and AML, or know your customer and anti-money laundering type situations. Obviously, decentralized finance is also going to be very heavily leveraged in regards to those things. But the delegation for DAO allows people who have more of the tokens to go through and have a weightier goal in some of the organizations. So if someone owns 90% of something, then they have obviously a heavier vote in regards to the way the company works from that point on. Decentralized finance is internet banking, I should say, but some of the interest rates in regards to that stuff are astounding and crazy. A lot of it is unregulated. So you should do your own research before you want to go through and get into this stuff. But it is a really interesting way for people to go through and scam and to go through and wash money. It's a bad thing, but it's something that has happened a lot there. There are a couple different platforms like non-fungible, and the one that you see here is Dune.xyz. It is a site that does cover trends in regards to certain projects, and it doesn't have to be specific for DAOs. It doesn't have to be specific for DeFi. How about that? It can be just NFT projects. There was a project that was backed by Justin Bieber, and that one was trending a long time, whatever. And so you can see, because of the sentiment, because of people's interaction in regard to it, the prices obviously for those NFT providers raised. And when that kind of fell off the map, they lowered. So there's a way to go through and to gauge sentiment in regards to this Web 3.0 kind of space for that stuff. One of the things that you do want to be careful of, especially in regards to decentralized finance, is the rug pulls or someone running off with all the money. There is a project that is currently still up called Wonderland to stake or to put coins into a centralized pool, and then they give you money back in regards to that staking. This is that, but on times 100, right? Times 1,000,000 actually. The APY for this is 77,000, almost 78,000% back in regards to your funding, which sounds amazing, but also sounds too good to be true. One of the things that they found out in regards to this project was that the co-founder was actually part of a rug pull that happened in Canada back in 2000, I think it was 18 or 17 there. And it was $190 million where they just didn't have the funds and they couldn't give it back to anybody. People in Canada would pay the traditional fiat currency and they would get Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it was. It was an actual exchange. And it went completely belly up, and those people didn't receive a lot of this money back. So a couple of years later, they forked this specific project from what's called Olympus DAO, which is another project where it's another staking coin where you put money into it and then they give you money back. You have to go through and leave it in there for a minimum of like 5 days. And this is very reminiscent of something that happened back in 2016, 17, and I think 18. There was a platform called BitConnect, and it was the same thing. You put Bitcoin in, you let them hold it for 5 days, they would give you like 150% back of whatever you put in. So if you put 100, they give you $50 back plus your 100, and then you could keep rolling it, keep rolling it, keep rolling it. Well, that turned out to be a major scam as well. The one thing that we don't know sometimes with a lot of these projects is who's actually controlling these projects. The teams that are out there, and they are called Doxxed teams, those are the ones who they tell you who they are, they tell you who they represent and what they stake, and we can do instant research on them. Then there are non-teams, anonymous teams, where they have the project, the protocol, and the backing, but they don't announce who they are or what affiliation they have with that. That is kind of what they had here with Wonderland. The director, the person in front, was very avid about that. But then this co-founder, he was kind of the shadow side man who didn't want to give any information up. And it was extremely obvious why now, because he unfortunately has been associated with a rug pull before. So right after this kind of happened, he came out with his own coin, which, if anyone knows anything about ICOs or IPOs, traditional finance, cryptocurrency, anything, usually the market kind of tries to dictate what the coin's price is. This guy's already just coming out and saying, okay, I've got this seafood coin. There's about 1 million of them. We're going to price them at $100. And it sounds like it's already a scam. So just be aware and track these things, because the historical view for a lot of these projects is really going to go through and get you more information out of this than maybe the white paper will. All right, so that's my 2 cents on that stuff. Decentralized social media. We won't go into a lot of this, but in the GitHub and the slides, obviously, there's a lot of these either peer-to-peer, so IPFS, or peer-to-peer like Mastodon, or blockchain technologies like Endorse, which is like a LinkedIn, but it's on the blockchain. It's important for us to know where these things are so that we can go through and research them. With Endorse, it depends on how many people come and endorse you, just like with LinkedIn with the endorsements. But if you get a Twitter troll farm or something else like that to go through and to raid a specific person, and they bump the skill that they have up way more than they need to, it's something that we need to be able to go through and identify in regards to these social media platforms. So more on that, but not in this talk, right? So getting into a little bit more of the actual browser technology. So ENS, or Ethereum Name Services, and then UNS, which is the Unstoppable Domains, top level domain stuff. This is all in the GitHub. There's actually probably about 8 more. Ethereum, the ENS is really the biggest winner right now in regards to that. And not only because it's Ethereum, it's the second most popular blockchain cryptocurrency in existence, but they originally came out as an NFT. So all ENS domains are actually also NFTs. And what that means is that they are non-fungible, so that you can make it, mint it, and then have it so you can sell it in the future. So it's the same thing like the 90s .com boom. If you bought Pepsi.com as an NFT now, you could try to sit on it and do land grabs and things like that. It's really interesting for us as open source intelligence persons, because we can take ENS domains as an NFT. And the future of this is they want you to connect your .eth domain and your MetaMask to future projects, right? So they want the metaverse, they want decentralized finance, any DAOs, anything that you want to go through and do with that. So for sock puppet accounts, if we decide that we want to go through and get our own branding in regards to a .eth account, it may actually be $5 cheaper to go through and just get an ETH domain, an ENS domain there for a sock puppet creation account, and then continue to go through and roll forward, as opposed to getting a Mint Mobile card and then getting a Gmail account and then rolling into all these other things. We can just instantly connect the .eth domain or the wallet to whatever service it is, and depending upon how much they actually vet in regards to some of this stuff, just this type of technology for Web3 sock puppet analysis and things like that. And that is where we kind of get into some of the using the traditional OSINT methodologies for some of the Web3 investigations, right? So there's a project called Cryptoland, and we will get into a little bit of what their, if you look at, press F12 if you do all the hacking, right? I'm from Missouri, so I apologize for that whole story. But if you press F12, you get into the developer console and you start looking at what interactions are coming back in regards to the network, you can actually go through and track where these people are hosting some of their stuff, where these people are using payment allocation, where these people are actually calling APIs and things like that. And so for these NFT projects, especially this one for Cryptoland, that their goal is to go through and buy an island and have a lot of people who are millionaires in cryptocurrency space go and live there, and they're selling NFTs to go through and try to get the startup capital for this stuff. There's a very scary video about how this all works, and literally their mascot is named Connie, like con you out of money. So some of that stuff is just kind of be careful on that stuff. So let's check this out. Press some buttons. There we go. So I know this is a lot to kind of look at, and I apologize, but just from looking at their site and then getting into the developer consoles, you can go through and pull out APIs for the website that allow you to go through and look at contract information. So this is actually the contract information for where all of the NFTs are minted. You can see the base, the points here, which is 5%. So anytime an NFT is sold in these smart contracts, 5% of the sale goes back to this recipient wallet here. You can see that there are things that that have all the images, and we can look at those very plainly down here in the Google APIs. And it's just a lot of just behind the cover, right? Not a lot of security, not a lot of information being hidden. It's really just kind of all out there in plain. So this is a very simple example, but if you want to go through and look at any one of the cryptocurrency projects or the NFTs they have, all you have to do is just change this number from 1 to 10,000, and you could right click away to your heart's desire, and you can grab all these NFTs. You won't get the metadata because that's in this XML file that you have to download. But other than that, it's all just very, very plain and available, and it resolves in the browser. There's nothing special with this stuff. So we want to go through and look at these ENS domains because there's some very interesting things with ENS domains that people register, and traditional OSINT methodologies can allow us to go through and to move our investigation forward in regards to this stuff. So we took a random one, locating.eth, whatever, and we can see in OpenSeas, which is where this first slide over here is, that we can see who owns it. As Jeff went through and talked about in regards to the transactions, we can see when it was minted. It was an airdrop, meaning it was sent randomly to a wallet that was signed up with this specific project with ENS domains for this one. And then we can see where it was transferred. So it went from a null address to this other 283F or AFO, and then from 28, then they airdropped it to Rogue Spectre, this person, Rogue Spectre. And then Rogue Spectre said, okay, I want to sell this thing. I don't really care about this anymore. So Nifty Source decided that they wanted to go through and get this up. And you can see that there is a lot of metadata. And when we talk about metadata for this stuff, it's not so much what you would consider in regards to PDF or resolving metadata or EXIF data. Metadata is really when the creation, when the expiration, and when the registration date is. So that'll become important a little bit later here. Let's see. And so you can see what it was. And obviously on OpenSea, you can check to see when the specific date is. But like Jeff said previously, they really like to go by days. And so you just have to hover over it to go through and get the actual time and date stamp for that stuff. So we have a little bit of information. We have the OpenSea profile. So we have Nifty Source. And then there is a wallet attached to that. You can see when it joins. There's a timestamp for that as well. You can go through and see Rogue Spectre with the other address, and then there's a little bit of description or some other jargon there, and then you can see when they joined. And then you can see, well, there's a Twitter account with this .eth, but we don't know if that's specific to that person because there could be 1,000 Nifty sources out there. Maybe this person just bought this ETH and this is what they're doing. They're obviously a collector of NFTs, outdoor guy, all this other stuff. This gutter cat gang, the hashtag. They like to take pictures as well. We can see this other person is also on Twitter, and we're going to jump to the conclusion that this person is maybe part of this association, medium to low confidence kind of thing. It does say Rogue Spectre NFT, so it's in the same vein for that stuff. But we don't want to go through and make assumptions because we don't have all the data there yet for that. So we can see in the Twitter postings that the avatars are mixing or are posting, is kind of that gives us a little bit more confidence in regards to some of the stuff that they've been working with. We can also go through and see that, niftysource.eth is owned by Nifty Source. And then we can go through and pull this back to the avatar for the Discord that they listed and the avatar that they have for the OpenSea compare. So medium to high confidence in regards to maybe some of this stuff being here and those being associated with the same person. But this is just username and enumeration. This last thing is from the tool that we'll talk about here. I want you to notice something, though. The Ethereum address, even though Nifty Source owns it, he is the registrant, okay? So the registrant actually is the person that controls the actual domain or the NFT. The controller has day-to-day operations. Registrant has umbrella, God mode, ownership over all that stuff. So obviously we can see when they registered this to their own wallet space that they didn't change the Ethereum address. So just going off the Ethereum address or the owner address, doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to get the correct information out of that. So we do want to go through and make that really clear, because it is a different space from DNS, right? It's not the same thing. Come on here. I swear. Okay, traditional. Okay, last example of traditional OSINT. I apologize. This is the Fly Fish Club, and this is a NFT token that is a private membership token for a restaurant that doesn't even exist yet. It's sponsored by Gary Vaynerchuk. Some people know him. He's very wild on social media and stuff. But he actually created a token so that you could have private access to a seafood-based restaurant that will be in development and be built in 2023. Traditional OSINT, obviously, we can go through and look at LinkedIn, and we can go through and see who are part of the backing venture capital groups. And then we can see the wallets that's for this deployer who has these tokens. We wanted to dig in a little bit further and find out, okay, the people who own these tokens, what else can we find out about them, right? Because we're following this on down the path. This was a gentleman who owned 2 of these. And again, this is, and you can barely see it, but one of these sold for 10, almost 11 ETH, which at the time was about 4,000. So that's $44,000 for just this one little NFT picture. And then obviously they bought another one so that they can try to resell it or something. It looks like the last time that they had it as 10 ETH, and they're trying to sell it for 6. So going with that Web3, mind frame of buy high, sell low, everyone's on point there. But just through username analysis, obviously, we can go through and we can pull out specific instances using What My Name app, using traditional web search, using Twitter to go through and to kind of find out a little bit more about this individual and what they're doing, and a common association. There were some other things that we found, but didn't really go through and play with that. That personality, maybe that they are actually also a wildlife photographer, but we didn't want to get into that stuff. But the fact that we can take a token from a DAO or a decentralized finance company, and we can use username enumeration to go through and to revisit Web 2 principles, to go through and to pull out more information, is extremely powerful in regards to this Web 3 space. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at this stuff. All right, so the tool release, the thing that everyone's been waiting for, right? They're just telling you, just keep on going. Come on. We, I should say, myself and Solani's, who I've linked to in the hallway there, fantastic. He is truly a holy programming man. I really appreciate all the help, because I had some idea in regards to the stuff and what we could do, and we've iterated a couple times, but the script is all him, right? So yeah, it's fantastic. What we discovered in Ens Domains is that you can actually pull out text records. And what text records mean in this context is it's actually, like I said, when you register the Ethereum domain, the text record is email, telephone number, Keybase accounts, Discord, Twitter, all this stuff, whatever that you put in here. And again, let's back up and go, well, why would people go through and put that stuff in there? Remember that this NFT token is their way of branding themselves and using this as an interoperable wallet through all of this Web3 experience, through the metaverse, through DAOs, through DeFi, whatever it is. This is their singular wallet space, just like a MetaMask, just like this NFT domain, where all funds can come from and go out of. So why wouldn't you want to go through and put all your identifying information on there? Because if you're giving it to your friends, or if you're looking at it, if someone's scraping this information, if they want to make you part of the airdrop, whatever it is, then this information is extremely relevant to those people, and they want to go through and share this stuff. Again, data is now human behavior. So remember that when we're talking about this Web3 space, because a lot of the stuff we thought was bad for social media monitoring, SOCMENT, for oversharing in regards to that stuff. Now you have this stuff that's immutable on a ledger that is never going to go away, but has been recorded in these NFT immutable DAOs as well, right? Or not DAOs, excuse me, NFT domain experiences. Oh, Matt's back. I'm almost done. All right. So again, the text record for this stuff is really the useful part of this. So we thought, can you do this manually? And of course you can. You can go through and you can go to OpenSeas. You can look at all this stuff, do the registration date. If you pull up a random ETH domain, it gives you the wallet address, it gives you the avatar, and it allows you to go through and pin some information against it. You can also go to Etherscan and you can pull this information, but there's also, again, remember the registrant here allows you to go through and do other name lookups. So if they own multiple ETH domains and they're all resolving to the one because they're forwarded, then you have the ability to go through and to look at who else they own. It's very much like Who Is back in the day, but now it's all privatized, right? This is what we're talking about with the text records. You can have email, avatar, and this is just like Gravatar or anything else. It resolves to this address. Twitter, a Discord, which Discord is a major platform if you want to go through and look up any of this investigation stuff. And again, the forwarded addresses, this is the reverse record. So this is the domain, and then everything goes up to that domain. So it reverse resolves to that. Let's see. This is the script. Let's see if it's going to work. It's not going to work. Basically, what this does is it allows you to go through, and you can pull this from the GitHub project. It allows you to go through and put either an address in there, Filecoin. Oh, hold on, I apologize. I'm getting interrupted. It allows you to go through and put an Ethereum wallet in there or a .eth domain in there, and to resolve those back to what it would do. So it allows you, I can't even get this to move, I apologize. So it allows you to go through and pull off the information, and it gives you all of the other information that we kind of talked about previously here with these Ethereum addresses, the name hash, the label hash, the token, the owner, all of that information is resolved in this script. It's pretty fun. So this one specifically was for the address. This next one was for the actual the wallet address, or the domain, excuse me. And that was a lot of what we wanted to go through and show with that. So that is live right now if you want to go through and check that out. Other areas of research, obviously, we'll continue to go through and kind of plug away in regards to a lot of this stuff. NFT gaming, play to earn, metaverse, AR, VR. There are so many other crypto projects and things like that to go through and research. It will make your brain boil. But if you're enjoying this, or if you have questions, happy to go through and take that. But one last thing, and the most important thing, is stay OSINT curious.